April 9th, Beyond the Gates spoilers. Eva and Isaiah struggle to recover as Smitty crosses a line and Samantha turns on her mother. Spoilers for Beyond the Gates on April 9th reveal that Eva and Isaiah are still reeling from the fallout caused by Eva's mother after what was supposed to be a formal and meaningful lunch between Eva and Darlene. Now, the couple is struggling to regain their balance. At the same time, Smitty commits a crime, and Samantha lashes out at her mother. In Fairmont Crest, not every crisis begins with an explosion. Some fractures are born from a lunch that should have been ordinary, from a probing glance that lingers a little too long, from a refusal spoken in a calm voice that leaves a wound deeper than any argument. That is the most dangerous kind of pain in this world. It does not knock anyone down immediately, but it quietly erodes trust, distorts motives, and pushes people toward actions they never imagined themselves capable of. At a time when every family in Fairmont Crest is trying to keep the surface of their lives looking stable, Eva, Isaiah, Naomi, Jacob, Smitty, and Samantha are each being pushed to a point where emotion can no longer be hidden behind a polite smile. Each of them is fighting a different fear, but the real tragedy is that those fears do not exist in isolation. They collide, magnify one another, and create a spiral in which love, loyalty, shame, and impulsiveness become both weapons and weaknesses at the same time. For Eva, the problem was never just a lunch with the mother of the man she loves. What truly exhausts her is the feeling that she enters every room already having to defend herself before she has even spoken. She did not simply want to make a good impression on Darlene. What Eva truly wanted was to be seen as a person separate from the enormous and chaotic shadow of Leslie, but that is exactly what feels impossible. In a place like Fairmont Crest, people are rarely judged by who they are in the present. They are judged by the aftershocks they carry with them. Eva understands that all too well, because every time she starts to believe she has come far enough to finally be seen for herself, Leslie reappears like the living embodiment of the past, dragging everything back to the beginning. That lunch, therefore, was never just a meeting between a girlfriend and her boyfriend's mother. It was a test of Eva's desire to redefine herself. And when Leslie appeared, interrupting with her usual invasive and overwhelming presence, every bit of effort Eva had carefully prepared collapsed in the cruelest way. She did not fail because she said the wrong thing. She failed because she was forced to stand in the same frame as the woman who helped create every prejudice she has been trying to escape. What made it even more painful was Isaiah's response. He is not heartless, but he has a habit of minimizing danger until it crashed directly into his life in a visible and undeniable way. To him, Leslie is an annoyance that can be managed, a chaotic force, but not enough to shake the foundation of their relationship. To Eva, Leslie is proof that at any moment she can be robbed of the chance to start over by a single act of sabotage at exactly the wrong time. That difference in perspective is the true crack between them. Isaiah may think he is keeping things light, but in Eva's eyes, he is unintentionally denying the seriousness of an insecurity she has been forced to live with for far too long. He should have understood that what she needed was not empty reassurance, but real recognition. If he had simply been honest and told her that Darlene had not accepted Naomi at first either, that his mother's judgment was not a final sentence, Eva might have been able to breathe more easily. Instead, his silence leaves her feeling like she is fighting alone in a battle the person beside her should understand better than anyone. As for Darlene, perhaps the most complicated truth is that she is not entirely wrong, yet not entirely fair either. She is not looking at Eva with simple hatred. What drives her more than anything is fear. Mothers who have watched their children suffer rarely respond with openness. They respond with caution, with scrutiny, with walls built before danger even appears. Darlene may be seeing Eva through old prejudices, but deep down it is the defensive reflex of a woman who does not want her son repeating the mistakes that once made the whole family pay a price. That is why Eva's tragedy does not lie in being hated, but in being feared. And other people's fear is always harder to break than hatred, because it so often disguises itself as something reasonable. So if Eva continues trying to prove herself, it will not be because she is weak, but because she understands that maturity sometimes means enduring being misunderstood without turning yourself into the bitter version of what others already think you are. But every endurance has its limit. If Leslie keeps destroying every small step Eva tries to make, then the possibility of Eva shifting from patience to resistance becomes almost unavoidable. And when that happens, the line between justified self-defense and emotional explosion will become dangerously thin. Ironically, while Eva is desperately trying to be accepted by Darlene, Naomi may be the one who receives the most tenderness from her. That not only creates an emotionally compelling contrast, but also exposes a bitter paradox. Naomi is in a phase where her marriage to Jacob has not fallen apart, yet no longer gets to live in the ordinary presence of love. A separation caused by duty is always crueler than a separation caused by the end of love, because it gives the one left behind no full right to be angry and no true right to feel secure. Naomi cannot blame Jacob for doing what he believes is necessary, but she also cannot deny the feeling of being left behind to manage her loneliness on her own. To endure anniversaries that suddenly feel empty, to live with the fear that every stretch of silence from her phone might mean the worst. Naomi's strength, then, is not that she does not hurt. It is that she has hurt in silence for so long that others have begun to mistake that silence for resilience. When Darlene is with Naomi, it is difficult to say whether what she offers is purely affection for a daughter-in-law or fear for Jacob reflected through Naomi. Perhaps it is both. Naomi becomes the place where Darlene pours the softness she cannot show directly to her son. There is love in the comfort she offers Naomi, but also the helplessness of a mother who knows her son is walking into a game she cannot protect him from. That may be what stings Eva the most. Not because Naomi does not deserve love, but because Eva will see in that tenderness the very thing she craves and is being denied. In a house full of fractures, sometimes the thing that hurts most is not being attacked, but watching someone else be given the gentleness you have always had to fight for. And if that feeling builds long enough, it can become a kind of loneliness even more dangerous than ordinary isolation. Loneliness in the very presence of the people you want to belong to. On another, darker front, Smitty is moving toward the kind of mistake that does not come from malice, but from the desperate need to prove he is not useless. That is a deeply human motive, and for that very reason, one that can easily lead to tragedy. After spending too long on the sidelines of the investigation, after watching Jacob carry all the risks, Smitty has become consumed by the feeling that he is nothing more than the one who waits. The one who listens afterward, the one who arrives after all the important choices have already been made. He wants to contribute, he wants to act, he wants to become a real part of the chain rather than just the worried bystander trapped in helplessness. But in battles involving crime, the line between courage and recklessness is usually drawn only after the damage is done. Smitty secretly snooping around the hospital to track down the woman who contacted Grayson may look bold on the surface, but underneath it lies a more serious problem. He is not acting from careful preparation, but from a psychological need to compensate for feeling shut out. When people act to heal their wounded pride, they often convince themselves they are doing the right thing even when their instincts are already warning them otherwise. That is why Smitty committing a crime feels almost like the inevitable end of an emotional chain reaction. His actions may help him touch an important clue, but they also turn him into the weakest link in the entire group. A secret investigation is not threatened only by enemies on the outside, but by people within it who start believing the goal is big enough to justify crossing every line. Smitty will not just face legal danger. What will stay with him longer is guilt. Not the loud kind that erupts all at once, but the quiet kind that gnaws at him every night, forcing him to wonder whether he helped at all or only pushed Jacob into even greater danger. If Jacob finds out the truth, his anger will not simply be a reaction to wrongdoing. It will be the reaction of someone who understands the consequences, who knows that one impulsive move can destroy months of undercover work, can expose the people involved, invite retaliation, and wipe everything out before the truth ever has a chance to come to light. Grayson, meanwhile, is exactly the kind of person who makes the entire game harder to read. His silence is not just resistance, it feels more like survival strategy. People who hold information inside the criminal world rarely keep it out of loyalty. They keep it because they know speaking means signing their own death warrant. If Grayson keeps dodging Jacob, then that only suggests the woman contacting him is no minor piece on the board. She may be the doorway into a much deeper layer of the plasma ring, where illegal dealings are no longer the business of a few reckless people chasing dirty money, but something connected to names with influence, relationships, and the power to bend the rules right in the heart of town. This is where Ellen's fear begins to feel truly alarming. When he suddenly sends Marcel to visit an old friend, that move hardly feels like simple concern from a father worried about his child. It carries the smell of someone who knows far too much but is not yet ready to speak. If Elon truly understands how dangerous the plasma ring is, then his fear is not abstract. It is the fear of someone realizing Jacob may be reaching into a network where the closer he gets to the truth, the less controllable the cost becomes. Marcel becomes an especially dangerous factor in this picture, because the people who serve as go-betweens are often the ones who know the most pieces of the truth while attracting the least attention. If he is completely loyal to Elon, then this trip may be an effort to keep Jacob from sinking any deeper. But if Marcel keeps part of the truth for himself, he becomes a ticking time bomb. Because someone who holds information without being restrained by a clear moral code is exactly the kind of person who can shift the entire outcome with a single decision. And that is what makes the plasma case more frightening than an ordinary crime story. It does not only test investigative skill. It erodes the closest relationships, forcing each person to decide whether truth, safety, or loyalty matters most. On what may seem like a smaller front, though no less dangerous emotionally, Samantha is facing one of the most primal forms of hurt there is. Being rejected by the very person she most wants to love her. Her invitation to June to attend the dance was not just a sweet gesture. It was a plea to be acknowledged, to be included, to believe that this mother-daughter relationship could still become something warmer than all the disappointments that came before. When June refuses, no matter her reason, Samantha is unlikely to receive it with mature logic. For a heart already scarred by abandonment, every new rejection calls back every old wound at once. Samantha may understand that her mother has reasons, but understanding will not be the first thing she feels. The first thing she will feel is that once again, she was not important enough for someone to push through difficulty just to show up for her. That feeling is fertile ground for retaliation. People do not always lash out because they are cruel. Sometimes they lash out because they cannot bear their helplessness, because they need their pain to be seen, because they want someone else to feel even a fraction of the hurt they have just swallowed. If Samantha responds with anger, it will not simply be youthful immaturity. It will be a twisted declaration that she is tired of always having to understand the adults around her, tired of waiting for the day when life becomes less complicated. But the tragedy is that rebellion born of pain often drives people even farther from the very thing they want most. Samantha may hurt June, she may deepen the crack in their relationship. And afterward, she may still be left facing an even greater emptiness when she realizes revenge does nothing to heal the ache of being left behind. That is the cruelest law of wounded family bonds. The more desperately people want to be loved in the right way, the more likely they are to do the wrong thing in order to force love to answer them. In the end, the greatest strength of all these developments does not lie in who wins or loses, or which secret will come out first. What makes them so haunting is that every storyline revolves around the same central question: how long can people endure being constantly seen through the lens of the past, tested by silence, and forced to choose between what is right and what is necessary for survival? Eva wants to be accepted, but Leslie's past weighs heavily on her. Isaiah loves Eva, but still does not understand that love cannot be just calm reassurance. It must also be the ability to see the other person's pain in its true size. Naomi is trying to hold on to faith, but she is learning that love stretched by duty can exhaust the heart just as much as any breakup. Smitty wants to matter, but he is moving dangerously close to a mistake that will not be easily erased. Jacob wants to protect everyone, but the deeper he goes, the more likely he is to lose control. Samantha only wants to be chosen, but the pain of rejection may twist that longing into an anger powerful enough to ruin every chance at healing. And that is what makes Fairmont Crest more dangerous than ever right now. No one is entirely evil, but everyone is wounded enough to make terrible choices. In a world like this, disaster rarely comes from a monster stepping out into the light. It comes from ordinary people who are hurting too much, loving too deeply, fearing too greatly, and slowly beginning to believe they have no other choice. Thank you all for taking the time to watch my video, and thank you for your trust. Everything I share here is based only on personal speculation and opinion. If you found this video interesting and helpful, please support me with a like and leave a comment below. If you have better ideas or more interesting predictions, feel free to share them in the comments so everyone can join the discussion. I truly appreciate every contribution and every bit of support. Thank you so much. If you have not followed us yet, please scroll down and hit the subscribe button.